So if you've watched my videos, you know already that I don't work on refrigerators, and you probably know why. I'm getting up there in years, in between the washers and dryers and the writing and the coding. Every hour of my day is already spoken for. I don't need more on my plate. But my phone doesn't know that, and I get calls from people wanting their refrigerators fixed, and I have to turn every one of them away. Now, honestly, there's a business sitting right there for some young man who wants it to take over the shop in a year or two. And refrigerators and everything else that I don't touch, he could add back in and make himself a very good living. The work's out there. I'm just not the one to do it anymore. Now, what I can do is tell you which one to buy, because I've spent my life around these machines and I know what fails and why. And this video is coming straight from y'all. When I told you the best refrigerators were top freezers, many of you wrote back saying that you can't use a top freezer. Some of you can't bend down to the bottom drawer of a refrigerator. Some of you just don't want one. And that's fair enough. So I went out and did the homework for the rest of you. So let's get to it.
Now, before I name a single brand, let me show you how I got here so you can check my work and decide for yourself whether to trust it or not. I didn't pull these picks out of the air, and I didn't take a manufacturer's word for anything. I used 4 sources, and I leaned on all of them together because any one of them alone could steer you the wrong way. The first one I used, and the one I put the most weight on, is the service data from Yale Appliances up in Boston. Every year they publish how many of the refrigerators they sell come back for repair in the first year. This year that's built on more than 33,000 real service calls. That's not a survey or an opinion. That's machines in real houses breaking or not breaking, and they count them up. When a brand has a low service rate, it means fewer of them come back needing a repair. Now, the second is a study from J.D. Power that tracks problem rates across big brands, which is a different group, and they measure a different way, which is exactly why I wanted them next to the Yale numbers. Now, when 2 sources that count things differently point at the same brand, that's when you can start to believe it. And third, I use Consumer Reports. Now, I know some folks don't put much stock in them, and I understand why. A lot of their ratings come from member surveys. People reporting on their own machines, not from a repair log. So I don't treat their reliability scores as gospel, but there's one thing that Consumer Reports does that nobody else does, and they do it well, and that's controlled testing. They buy the machines themselves, put them in a lab, and measure how evenly they cool, how fast they recover from when you open the door, how much energy they use, how loud they run. That's real measured performance. They done the same way for every brand. So I don't lean too much on Consumer Reports to tell me what breaks. I've got the service data for that. I lean on them to tell me how well a machine actually does its job. It's a different question, and it's the one that they answered the best. And fourth, I went to the independent repair companies, those people who turn the wrenches for a living, and look at which brands they say hold up and which ones they tell you to stay away from. Now, these folks have no reason to sell you anything. They just see what rolls through their shop. Now, here's the one fact that matters more than any brand, and it comes straight out of those 33,000 service calls. Of all the refrigerator styles, the side-by-sides and the French doors are among the most serviced. And the number one thing that breaks on them is the ice maker. Not the compressor, not the cooling part of the refrigerator, but the ice maker. And one more thing you need to understand before we go any further, and it surprised even me when I discovered it. On a side-by-side or a French door today, you can't really buy one that doesn't have an ice maker anymore. They all come with one. So the answer isn't to go find some ice maker free model that doesn't exist. The answer is to be smart about which brand you buy and how you're going to use it. I'll explain exactly what I mean when we get to the picks. Now, before I get into the brands, let me make sure we're talking about the same things, because these styles have names and I'm going to use them. A top freezer is an old classic, freezer on top, fridge below. That's the one I told you to buy in my last video, and it's still the most reliable design there is. A side-by-side splits the machine down the middle with the freezer on the left side and the fridge on the right. It's top to bottom, freezer all the way up and down, and fridge all the way up and down. It usually has an ice maker dispenser out the front of the door. This one is a water dispenser. And the French door has two doors that swing open up top for your fresh food, with a pull-out freezer drawer along the bottom. And this video is about those last two, the side-by-side and the French door, because that's what so many of you told me you wanted. You don't want a top freezer for whatever reason, and I understand. So those are the two styles we're working with today. So here's what the numbers actually say. Let me give them to you straight, and I'll tell you what I make of them. Now I want to start with LG, and I want to be careful how I say this, because if you go do your own research after this video, and I hope you do, LG is going to be sitting right at the top of the data. So let me get ahead of that and tell you why I'm not going to put them there. On the numbers alone, LG wins. In the first year service data, they come back the least of anyone, about 8.5%. If all you did was read the charts, you'd close the laptop and go buy an LG, and you'd think that you did your homework. So if you're researching behind me and you see LG on the top, you're not wrong about what the data says. You're just not seeing the whole picture yet. Now here's what the charts don't tell you, and it's the kind of thing you only hear from the people who actually work on them. LG uses a linear compressor, and it has a recurring problem. There have been class action lawsuits over it. One has been settled for the older models, and there's a newer one, and it's still active in 2026. They covered the LG refrigerators built from 2018 onward. Now the problem is a seal inside that compressor that loses pressure and fails, and it usually doesn't happen in the first year. It happens in year 3, year 4, or maybe even year 5. Your fridge just stops cooling one day with no warning. Now, you see why the data and the reputation disagree. That first year service number stops counting at 12 months, and the compressor fails after that. So the good number is real, and the bad reputation is real. They're just measuring different points in the machine's life. The chart shows the first year. The repairman sees your year 4 or when the calls start coming in. LG says that they've reinforced the newer compressors, and the ones built after the machines in the lawsuit, and they'll point you to a 10-year warranty on that compressor. Now let me be fair to them. That warranty is real, and it covers the linear compressor specifically. It's not one of those 10-year warranties on a part that's never going to break anyway. And for the first 5 years, they cover parts and labor both. If it quits on you in year 4, then you're going to make it right. So why I'm still not sending you to go buy one? Well, there's two reasons, and neither one is about the money. The first is that the warranty doesn't put your food back. When that compressor goes, your refrigerator stops cooling that day with everything in it, and then you wait for the claim for an authorized tech for the part to come in. Now, this whole video comes down to one idea. Buy the machine you can get serviced, and service is exactly where LG is weakest. GE has a repairman in every town who knows the machine, and they have parts sitting on the shelf. LG has a warranty and a phone number. Covered is not the same thing as fixed, and it is a long way from fixed this week. The second reason is the one that decides it for me. The compressors they say they fixed haven't been in people's kitchens long enough to prove it. The failures don't show up in year 1, they show up in year 3, year 4, year 5. That's how long it takes to know whether a fix worked, and that clock hasn't run yet. So in the data, LG is the winner, and I'll say that plainly. But I can't put a machine at the top of my list when the trouble doesn't surface until year 4 and the fix is too new to have gotten there. Maybe in a few years, but not today. So let me tell you who I would buy. And the first up is GE. GE doesn't always post the lowest failure numbers, and I'll be honest, their data is a little mixed depending on which line and which year you look at it. But GE wins where it counts. For a machine you're going to own for 15 years, every source agrees that GE has the best service network in the country. And the repair techs will tell you that GE and Whirlpool are the easiest refrigerators to work on because the parts are on the shelf. The repair steps are well documented, and most fixes are done in about 90 minutes or less. So when your GE needs service, and every fridge eventually does, you can actually get it fixed fast without a fight. Now on these machines, that matters more than a fraction of a percent on a failure chart. Now the second one I'd buy is Bosch, the Bosch 800 series French door. Bosch rates among the more reliable brands, and it's the way they build their products that sets them apart. Most refrigerators use a single compressor for both the fridge and the freezer. The Bosch 800 uses two, a separate compressor for each side. Now that keeps the temperature steadier, prevents humidity from moving between the two compartments, and keeps your food from spoiling. And here's the part that ties back to everything I told you. On most French doors, the ice maker is built up into the door with your food. On this Bosch, it's down in the bottom freezer drawer instead, out of the way where a problem does the least harm. And then there's the one to stay away from, Samsung. It always pops up, doesn't it? In the JD Power data, Samsung shows above average problems in 7 of 8 categories, and the estimates put refrigerator failure around a third within 5 years. Add in parts that can take weeks to arrive, and one breakdown becomes a long, miserable wait. The repair shops are near unanimous on this. Don't buy one. So now you've got the data. Let me turn it into a decision, because the numbers alone don't tell you what to buy. They tell you what to weigh. So here's the thing to understand, and it's the whole key to buying one of these. On a side-by-side or a French door, you cannot get away from the ice maker. It comes with the machine, and it's the number one thing that's going to break. So the question is, how do I avoid the ice maker? Well, you can't. The question is, when it acts up, and it will, what do you want to be holding? That's why my two picks are GE and Bosch. They answered that question in two different ways. Buy the GE if what you want is a fridge that you can get fixed. It may not have the prettiest number on the reliability chart, but when the ice maker or anything else goes, GE has parts on the shelf and a repairman in every town who knows the machine. You'll be back up and running in a day or two, not waiting for 2 weeks for a part to be shipped. For most people, that's a smart buy. Not the one that's least likely to break, but the one that's least painful when it does. Buy the Bosch 800 if you want the best built box and are willing to spend a little bit more. It's got 2 compressors, steadier temperatures, food lasts longer, and the ice maker is tucked down in the freezer drawer instead of up in the door with your food, where a leak or a jam does the least damage. It's the thinking man's design. It costs more, and Bosch parts aren't quite as widely available as GE's, but you're buying a machine that's built to give you less trouble in the first place. Now, here's the move nobody's going to tell you, and it's free. If you don't actually use ice, if you're a household that fills trays or doesn't bother, then don't hook the water line up to the machine at all. I mean it, just leave it disconnected. No water to the ice maker means no ice maker failures, no leaks, no water pooling, and no flooding of your floor. You solved the number one problem with these refrigerators by not running a water line. Now, I've seen people run a fridge for 15 or 20 years that way with no trouble because the part that always breaks was never turned on. And that's a real thing, not a small one. I had a viewer tell me about a pinhole leak in the little water line to his ice maker. It wasn't a flood, it was just a slow drip behind the fridge that nobody saw, and it ran down into his hardwood floors, and it cost him a $50,000 insurance claim before it was all over. All from the ice maker line. So if you don't need the ice, don't run the water. And if you don't want ice, buy the brand you can service and know that line is the first place to look when something goes wrong. That's the decision. G if you want it to easy fix, Bosch if you want it to be built better, and either way, if you can live without the ice, leave the water off and skip the whole problem. So let me put it all together. If you want a refrigerator you can actually get serviced, buy the GE. The side-by-side model is the GSS25GYPFS. It's got 25 cubic feet. It runs somewhere between $1,100 and $1,400, often on sale from a $2,000 list. It's not the fanciest box on the floor, but when something goes wrong, you're going to be able to get it fixed fast and cheap, and that's worth more over 15 years than any feature. If you want the better built machine and you've got a little more to spend, buy the Bosch 800 series French door, the B36CT80SNS. 2 compressors, steadier temperatures, the ice maker's tucked down in the freezer where it does the least harm. It'll run you about $3,500 because it's a counter depth premium unit, but you're paying for a machine designed to give you less trouble. Stay away from the Samsung and LG for now, no matter how good the numbers look, until they prove that their compressor is fixed. Now, for those of you building a new home or outfitting a high-end kitchen, there's one more worth knowing about, even though most of us will never buy one. That's Sub-Zero. If you've heard the name and wondered what the fuss is, here it is. They make a built-in side-by-side, the kind that sits flush with your cabinets and looks like furniture. It uses two completely separate refrigeration systems, the premium version of exactly what makes that Bosch good, and it's built to last 20 years or more, with parts stocked for decades, so you can actually keep it running. The catch is the price. You're looking at north of $10,000, sometimes a lot more. So, no, it's not for most of us, but if you're spending that kind of money on a kitchen anyway and you want the best there is in a style that isn't a top freezer, the Sub-Zero is the one to look at. For everybody else, it comes down to those two. GE if you want it easy to fix, Bosch if you want it built better. Either one, you bought smart. Now, before I let you go, I want to say something to the folks who got this video made, because it wasn't my idea, it was yours. And let me be straight with you about the comments while I'm here. I read them, every one of them, but I can't answer them all. There's just not enough hours between the shop and the channel and everything else to reply to every single person, much as I'd like to. So I get to as many as I can with the time that I've got, and I read the rest. If I didn't answer yours, it's not because I ignored it, it's because there's just one of me. And this video is proof I'm reading them. After my last refrigerator video, a bunch of you wrote in to say a top freezer isn't going to work for you. Some of you can't be bending down to the bottom drawer anymore. A fellow named Mick Vick 7780 told me straight out at 72 with a bad back, that wasn't going to happen. Somebody else asked a question that really shaped this whole thing. Would a French door with a bottom freezer be just as good as long as you're careful? And now that's a sharp question, and it sent me digging. So if you've been waiting on this one, this is me answering you, not in a reply, but with a whole video. And I'll leave you with the one thing that I hope you remember out of all of it. On these refrigerators, the ice maker is what breaks, and you can't buy one without it. So buy the brand you can get serviced. That's the GE or the Bosch if you want to spend up. And if you don't need the ice, do yourself a favor, don't even hook it up. Remember that viewer who lost his hardwood floors and $50,000 to a pinhole leak in that little line? A slow drip nobody saw for months. The part that causes the most grief is one you might not even need. So think hard before you even connect it. Now that's how I'd buy a refrigerator that isn't a top freezer. Pick the one you can fix, skip the water if you can, and you'll get years out of it without a headache. One last thing before I let you go, I don't fix refrigerators, but I told you at the top of this that I know what fails on these machines and why, and it's only fair I tell you where that comes from. It comes from doing this for a living. Washers and dryers day in and day out for years now, and on those, I don't have to hand you off to somebody else. I've written the repairs down. The ones I do over and over, the ones that sound like an expensive service call, and they turn out to be one part you can put in yourself in the afternoon with tools that you already got in your garage. So if you've got a washer that won't drain or a dryer that won't heat, scan the code right there, or it's down in the description. That's the work I actually do, and that's where I can do you the most good. That's all for now. I'm Chip with Harper Knowles, and I am out.